Welcome to Raiders Roundtable, brought to you by America First Credit Union, the legendary cornerback Eric Allen. I'm JT, and EA, the Raiders lose a tough one in Los Angeles. I thought it was a game they could have won, they should have won, but a tale of two halves, and they lose the game.
For sure, JT. I thought looking at how the game turned out, obviously this is a kind of results business, obviously, but Raider fans were there, kind of giving the Raiders kind of a home away from home kind of vibe. So you thought early on this is going to be a game that we can kind of take care of, but unfortunately not consistent. Didn't play a full 60 minutes, and Chargers were able to get away with one.
Yeah, I look at this game and what could have happened. I thought the Raiders could have put the game away in the first half, and I mean that.
Yeah.
I think if they went up 14-3, if they went up 17-6, Justin Herbert and the Chargers, they just had no rhythm.
Yeah.
They couldn't get anything going early in the game, and the Raiders had an opportunity to really jump on them, but the offense couldn't get going, especially when it came to the short rushing game.
Yeah, for sure. I think the short yardage issues were definitely a problem, not winning the line of scrimmage. Obviously, this is a football team that wanted to really capitalize on the run and playing good defense. If I would have told you Justin Herbert's going to have 144 yards, you would have took that and said, hey, the Raiders are going to win, right? So there were some good bright spots, but obviously with the loss, there was definitely some areas that we need to address and need to address very fast, JT, because we have the Baltimore Ravens coming up next week.
Absolutely. Let's get to some of the highlights of the game as we take a look early in this game. The Chargers came out and they just couldn't get anything going. And early, a big Max sack. So you're starting to say, how many sacks is he going to have this year?
That's
Max
right.
got going early.
I tell you, all offseason we work on our pass rushing moves, so, we're going to be there and ready to go. I love the screen game to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands very fast because of that great pass rush by the Chargers you see here. So this is all what we need to, and these are the issues that we need to fix. Line of scrimmage. If we're going to be a powerful running football team to kind of put your hand in the ground, you got to be able to convert in those situations. Defensively, great tackling. Early on last year, this was an area of defense that really plagued us. Hold them to 3 points with great opportunities here for the defense. But I thought early on, defensively, really got after the Chargers.
Yeah, 3-0 out of the gate, and the Raiders are trying to get something going here. And look there, Davante over the middle of the field, wide open. I didn't think Davante got enough touches and targets in the game, but when he made plays, you could tell he was in full season rhythm. He looked great in this game when the ball came his way.
Yeah, and I thought that, Gardner Minshew will not really have an opportunity to go with Davante early, really targeting here. And this is an outstanding play here. You're going to see another shot of this. And I thought Gardner did a great job of getting those eyes away from his target, being able to check down. Then Alexander Madison made an incredible play here by doing a little hurdle here to talk about Olympics. Hey,
yeah, there you go.
Getting it done, finishing the end zone, explosive play.
You made a great play. He looked off the defender and then made a play. And then I thought Madison was fantastic. And here comes Brock Bowers. And this is what we've been waiting for, to get Bowers going. I thought he had a big day, EA.
Yeah, he did. Just consistency. We talked about this off camera, JT. I just thought that they never really had a complement to a big play. So you have a big play and then absolute disaster here with the fumble, turnover, just right before halftime. Not a good situation. But I just thought we were never really connected after a big time play, having a turnover. You could never see this. And I thought, looking at it, opportunities for Devontae Adams to really make a big play there could have been opportunity.
I thought that was the ball game. I really did. That fumble thrown behind the line of scrimmage, I thought was the game, because I think the Raiders would have got away with some points there. They would have got a touchdown or a field goal. That could have changed the game. But big chunk yardage runs, which really hurt the Raiders in this game. That can't happen. I mean, Earl Campbell didn't have chunk runs like this in some games, and Dobbins had a big day, but still the Raiders' defense was able to hold Eric and make plays and get off the field. I thought that was really important.
It was important. I think when you look at defensively, it had some great plays early on, but you cannot allow these chunk plays just not fitting in the right gaps. You have to have heavy hands. We looked up at this early in preseason, defensive run, not doing a very good job. So you have to find a way to be sound in that defense. And then the turnovers, JT. The turnovers are always the one area on any football team that'll get you killed.
Yeah, it's too bad for Zamir because it looked like he was starting to get rolling. But back to Davante, again, over the middle of the field. Whatever that route progression was, it was working. And Davante's had a career year. And then Daniel Carlson missing this field goal. That just doesn't happen. That's 10-9 Raiders there. Look at the clock, 2:02 to go. We're going into the fourth quarter here. The Raiders should have had the lead lead in this situation, and then the Chargers just take advantage of it.
Yeah, once again, just not gap sound here, not able to finish, and you want to be able to put your defense in a situation where it's positive. Here, you got to make that tackle.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I thought the Raiders defense had a really good game. We continue on. Nice throw and catch here as the Raiders are trying to get Jacoby Myers. He had the first big reception of the game. They go to him again. Here I go again. There's only one football, and you got a lot of good players that want to get that football here. But Khalil Mack has had a Hall of Fame career year with the Bears and obviously the Chargers. And the Chargers go up against the Raiders, and that one really hurt.
Yeah, it did. I thought those two edge guys did an outstanding job against us, not allowing our quarterback to get outside the pocket and use his mobility to make things happen.
Well, the Raiders here, look at the clock. So I was concerned about the clock at this point in the game. We're under 8 minutes to go. They are down a score, but I think this is the opportunity where they have to get something going. And then look, another big play.
Yeah, just another big one. And when you look at this defensively today on Monday, you come back in the room, you're going to see those fits, not playing with really heavy hands, being in the wrong gap, just not a situation that you want to find yourself in if you're a defense.
Well, then the Chargers put the game away, and they put the stamp on the game overall. I want to go back to the inability to go for it on fourth down. I thought the Raiders had the ability to go for it on fourth down, and they didn't do it. They punted, and the game ended because I thought the Raiders could steal the game. There's a skirmish here at the end of the game, but if you look at the stats, 176-71 in rushing. The passing, Gardner Minshew had a decent game. What killed the Raiders was short down, third down. 5 of 14 won't cut it because the defense held them to 4 of 15.
Yeah.
But look at the turnover margin. That was the critical stat in the game.
Yes, when you look at turnovers, just obviously that's the biggest point in the game. You look at the red zone situations early on in the game. We were pretty much awesome in the red zone. Third down situations, 0 for 7 in the first half, then 50% in the second half. So those are the numbers that you see to yourself, and you're going to come in today and you're going to say, you know, turnovers are definitely the issue. We need to get into the red zone if we're the offense, which is so important. And defensively, it was a tale of two halves. We've been talking about this all day. It's a tale of two halves. You just can't have the lack of consistency when you're a defense or offense. You got to make sure you can run the football and be effective. We weren't able to run the football, particularly in short yardage, and defensively, some of the run fits at the end of games on those big runs, you got to clean those things up.
I think we'll look back at this game and say, should they have went for it on fourth down instead of punting the ball, because they could have stole the game. At that point, the Chargers were playing better. I just think one first down, use the clock, score, try to put the game away, but they weren't able to do it.
Yeah, well, you have a defensive coach, JT, and the previous times you're going to go for it on short yardage situations, you weren't successful. So you did it once, you did it twice, and now you come to a situation where you have a defensive coach who's going to lean on his defense. That's the reason why that decision for him was so easy, because he said to himself, you know, I'm going to rely on my defense. Been playing pretty good football. Justin Herbert has not been a successful quarterback today, so I'm going to punt it and trying to get our defense kind of stemmed up and hopefully get a turnover.
Coming up next, we'll be joined by the former MVP, the great Rich Gannon, as we continue on Raiders Roundtable. Raiders Roundtable is brought to you by America First Credit Union, the official credit union of the Las Vegas Raiders.
When you come to see the Raiders take the field at Allegiant Stadium, you should do it from the best seats in the house. So grab an ice cold Coors Light, and you can enter to win tickets for these Coors Light silver seats at Allegiant Stadium. With plush seating, state-of-the-art beverage coolers, and wireless phone chargers, there's no better place to watch your Raiders bring home the win. Celebrate responsibly.
If there's one thing we like, it's choices. Find yours with Ford F-150. Gas, hybrid, or all-electric. Whether it's towing, powering up, or getting from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds, what you choose to do with that much power is up to you. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
Just announced. Low 1.9% APR financing for 72 months on a 2023 Ford F-150 or on the all-electric F-150 Lightning.
Dude, you're looking ice cold.
You look ice cold, bro.
Guys, somebody's coming. Somebody's coming.
Let's do it.
There comes a day,
Gonna be a day when I'll be the one
you dream.
It's gonna
It's gonna be Ray.
Dude, are you crying?
It's in our very nature to find exhilaration in the new, to seek the excitement of the unexpected, an endless yearning to experience what lies beyond the everyday.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
Raiders Roundtable is brought to you by Coors Light. Choose chill, an official beer of Raider Nation. Celebrate responsibly. 2024, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Let's welcome in former Raiders MVP Rich Gannon, who joins us every week. And Rich, let's begin overall and start off with the overall performance of Gardner Minshew in his debut for the Silver and Black.
Well, JT, I really felt like it was a tale of two halves, not just for Gardner, but the entire Raider team. I thought he played some really good football. I think when you look at his body of work, all things considered, footwork, decision-making, anticipation, accuracy, I thought he looked really comfortable. And that's saying something. You know, this is his first year in the system with Luke Getsy. When you look at some of the issues they had protecting, you know, they did. I thought the Chargers did a great job moving him off the spot. But I thought for the most part, I mean, look, you know, he gets fooled on the one play where you have the fumble. I think you look at the batted ball, and of course Jameer White puts the ball on the ground. So the turnovers in a game like that, when you go on the road in the division, you have to have a clean performance. The Raiders didn't have that, but I thought overall I don't want to say impressed, but I felt pretty good about what I saw from Gardner Minshew on week one.
Yeah, I agree, Rich. I tell you, I like the fact that he spreaded the ball around, hitting so many different receivers. Talks a little bit about what it takes to be able to be the kind of guy who can spread the ball around, how useful that is on offense.
Eric, you're right. I just, when I look at this offense and what they can be, I'm excited. And obviously, you got to start with Brock Bowers and the tight end situation. I think, Luke Getsy, that's going to continue to evolve. There's so many weapons on offense. Obviously, you've got great receivers. Now the tight end position, we can use, more tight end personnel. I thought the one thing that was disappointing yesterday was the Raiders' inability to kind of control the line of scrimmage and pound the football a little bit. And that's something that they have to do. I think, when coming out of preseason, I thought the two big things had to happen for the Raiders to have success in the first month of the season. I didn't like what I saw from the run defense against the Vikings and the Cowboys in the preseason with the ones. And yesterday, I thought in the first half, they did a great job. And just the second half was awful. I mean, 131 rushing yards from J.K. Dobbins in the second half. And that's really, and a couple big runs, as you said, some explosive runs, a 61-yard run. We talked about that before we jumped on the air. I mean, you've got a defensive tackle that jumps in the A-gap. Devon Diablo takes it on with the wrong shoulder and also jumps in the A-gap. And then you got a safety that comes screaming downhill out of control, Marcus Epps. and he takes a poor angle. And next thing you know, you got a run that goes out the back door for 61 yards. Honestly, when you look at that film, there's probably 3 or 4 plays on both sides of the ball that if you could just get that corrected, the Raiders come away with a win yesterday in Los Angeles.
Rich, it was a tale of two halves. And if you look at the first half, I thought the Raiders, if they were going to win the game, had to win it in the first half. I'm talking win it. Go up 14-3 or go up 17-3 or 17-6. Take a couple of shots. Why didn't the Raiders and Luke Getsy attack downfield? Take a couple of big shots. A lot of it was underneath to Gardner Minshew. And again, he spread the ball out to 8 different receivers. There's a lot of good to take out of it. But I don't think they challenged the Chargers at all deep downfield. And I think the Chargers then got comfortable with Khalil Mack and Bosa and attacking the quarterback.
Yeah, I think a little bit of a conservative approach early, and I think part of that is making sure Gardner gets off to a good start. But when you've got a guy like Devontae Adams, I mean, honestly, when you look at your call sheet, that guy's got to get touches early in the game. You've got to get him into the flow of a game. And I didn't think that happened yesterday. And the other thing, I learned there's some Charles Woodson and Eric Allen. These are guys that were the best in the business. If you don't test these corners early in the game, you give them a free pass. And you can't do that. You've got to make them play 4 quarters, and you've got to make them defend the deep ball. Al Davis used to say that all the time. I didn't feel that the Raiders did that enough yesterday. Obviously, teams are going to go out of their way to scheme and take away Devontae Adams. You're going to see a lot of rotations and different things to make sure that he's not a big factor. But you've got to move him around. You've got to change the launch point for Devontae Adams. You've got to get him into bunch and stack releases so that he gets an opportunity to get touches. That didn't happen. And I thought that was a big issue. I thought the way the game played out defensively, and I really feel like the first month of the season, the Raiders defense has to dominate, and the Raiders have to be able to run the football successfully to really get Gardner Minshew comfortable in this offense. And defensively in the first half, guys, you can't ask for any more. I mean, the Chargers were 0 for 7 on third down. I think they had 83 yards of offense and just 2 first downs in the first half. So they did some really good things defensively. Offensively, they didn't take advantage of that. They didn't capitalize on field position. I thought some scoring opportunities in the first half.
I think you're right, actually. When you talk about defense, first half, and tremendous job, let's talk about running game, though. Those short yardage opportunities that we did not make, I think, led to Coach AP not going for it later in the game. Talk to us a little about what the mindset is when you're trying to go for a short yardage situation.
Yeah, we've got to be better up front. You know, I didn't like the protection. We gave up 4 sacks. Gardner Minshew was moving quite a bit. And he's a guy that needs a clean pocket. He's only 6'1". He's not a 6'5" guy that, you know, Justin Herbert is. And so it's hard. I was 6'3". It's hard for me to see over the line of scrimmage sometimes. He needs a clean pocket in front of him. That didn't happen enough yesterday. I also thought there were too many runs that barely got back to the line of scrimmage. You know, you can't have negative runs. I didn't feel like the front 5 played as well as they needed to do. We had too many draws at the line of scrimmage. We weren't moving people off the line of scrimmage. We weren't getting up on the second level. We didn't have any of the explosive runs that the Chargers had, or at least not enough of them. And that has to change this week against the Ravens. Look, if you have to go on the road against the Ravens and you get behind in the down and distance, it's going to be a long day for Gardner Minshew and the Raiders.
You know, Rich, you nailed it. There was early in the game, there was a 2nd and 1 and a 3rd and 1. And on 2nd and 1, they didn't take a shot, and they ran it into the pile. And the same thing on 3rd down. And Zamir White, the strength of him, with the size of his legs and his ability, he's supposed to be a great potential short yardage back. We don't know if he's going to have these Dobbin runs that we saw, but he better be good on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. And the offensive line just got blown up. And I don't think there was a lot of thought going into those plays, maybe getting them on the outside. So what do the Raiders need to fix there? Because we thought the goal was to build a bully, to find a way to win in the trenches, to come into a game, and physicality was going to be the X factor, and the Chargers won that side of the ball.
JT, you bring up a great point. You can't talk about being a tough, physical, offensive team. You can't talk about being a great running team. You can't talk about being a great short yardage and goal line team if you don't major in it. If it isn't in your DNA. You know, when Eric and I were together, we had Zach Crockett. We also had Tyrone Wheatley, and we also had Lincoln Kennedy and Mo Collins and Barrett Robbins and Steve Wisniewski, and guys that would knock you back off the ball. And we got in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. We didn't think we knew we were going to get converted. We're the best short yardage and goal line offense in football for a number of years. I might be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame if we were able to throw the ball inside the 10-yard line. Never got a chance to throw it. John Gruden give it to Zach Crockett or Tyron Whitley, and it made sense. But we never threw the ball down in that part of the field. We didn't have to because we had a great line of scrimmage, a great offensive line, and we moved people off the ball. And to me, if you're Luke Getsy and you go back and look at that, we can't have 2nd and 1s and 3rd and 1s and 4th and 1s and not feel like we're going to convert every one. It's a mindset.
Yeah, I believe so. When you talk about going against those football teams in practice, those short yardage situations, oh, man, it was something else to see. Just a dominant force up front. I don't think we're there yet, but that's the kind of football team I think we want to be. And the most important thing when you talk about football, I guess you're talking about time of possessions, talking about penalties, which you did an outstanding job of again. So hats off to the Raiders for not having a lot of penalties. More importantly, though, turnovers, Rich. You know that ultimately when there's two evenly matched football teams, that's the one stat that usually tells you who's the winner or not. Talks a little bit about those turnovers yesterday from our offense.
Yeah. When I look back on the game, you hate to lose the game, and you have to pack up your stuff and jump on the plane. You know what that feeling's like, and you come in on Mondays and everybody feels bad about themselves. If I'm Antonio Pierce, I think there's a lot of positives that come out of the game. We talked about how the defense played in the first half. We talked about some of the things that Gardner Minshew did. We talked about Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer and this offense and what it could look like. But there's some things that have to get cleaned up on both sides of the ball. We talked about some of the explosives on defense. You can't give up a 61-yard run. You got to do a better job getting off the field. You got to put two halves of football together, right? You can't have a great first half and come out in the second half and let J.K. Dobbins run wild. I just think there's some things that have to get cleaned up. Offensively, the turnovers. I mean, you can't turn the ball over. You can't go on the road. It's hard enough to go on the road in the division and win. We talked about having a clean performance. You can't turn it over 3 times. You give yourself no chance. And I just think that's AP's message today, guys. We didn't get accomplished what we wanted to. There's a lot of good things out there on film. Let's look at that. Let's embrace that, and let's get cleaned up what we can get cleaned up. And I think when you make that a point of emphasis, some of the things we talked about, eliminating the explosive plays, being better in short yardage and goal line situations, not turning the football over, I think there's some things that the Raiders can improve upon. They get a well-rested Ravens team that's coming off of a nail-biter last Thursday night, so it's going to be a real test, a quick turnaround for the Raiders this week.
Rich, Justin Herbert was very pedestrian. I mean, come on. You get him in a game, he might not have another game like that. I mean, this was a game where they were just below average in the first half of that game. They couldn't run a play. They were 3 and out. The Raiders set the edge. They were doing everything they wanted to do, and Herbert didn't look comfortable. Man, you talk about a game you want back. To say, look, if we can jump on this team and go up 14-3, I thought they could put the game away in the second half, make a couple of plays. But what'd you see with the Raiders defense on at least slowing down Herbert until those big runs, and then he finally made a couple of big throws to ice the game?
BT, I agree 100%. It didn't look like the same Justin Herbert, right? This is the guy that had a fractured finger. He's missed some time. And the one thing I'll say about Herbert and the Chargers, there's a lot of change around this young quarterback. Keenan Allen's no longer there. Mike Williams is no longer there. Austin Eckler, they were his 3 biggest weapons offensively. So they're going through a bit of a makeover offensively. They bring in Greg Roman. Don't kid yourself. Greg Roman worked with Jim's brother John in Baltimore, and it's all about beating you up physically. They go out and draft Joe Alt. So they're trying to get this offensive line cleaned up. The quarterback's been hit and sacked way too much the last 3 seasons, so they got to address that. They're trying to address that, and they bring in these 2 backs from Baltimore. And that's, I think they're changing who they are a little bit in terms of their philosophy offensively. I think there's going to be some growing pains with the Chargers, and I agree with you. I think the Raiders let one slip away because this team is a team that I think, I'm talking about the Chargers, will be a better football team in November and December. They're a team that may get better as the season goes along because, look, they've got a new coaching staff. You've got new schemes. You got a lot of new players playing for the first time together, and that's what we saw yesterday from the Chargers. But trust me, they're going to look a lot different than they did a year ago at Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley was out of control as a head coach, and I don't think he helped his young quarterback. Jim Harbaugh's played the position. He's coached the position. He sees the game through the eyes of the quarterback, and he's going to go out of his way to surround Justin Herbert with a good offensive line and a capable running game.
Yeah, Rich, you've played with some great Hall of Fame receivers in Tim and Jerry. And I tell you, going to a football game, really knowing that Davante Adams has had the Chargers every time he plays them. What do you think about the targets, the impact that Davante had?
You want to see more, right, Eric? He's one of the best receivers in the game. He's one of the best players in the game. And I just remember spending a lot of time with John Gruden when I was with the Raiders, and he had this call sheet. And Eric, you used to see the call sheet. I mean, it was like pages and pages of calls, right? And he had these sections on his call sheet, right? And he'd show them to me. And he'd say, "Hey, you see this section right here? Tim Brown section, okay? See this section right here? This is the Jerry Rice section. I'm going to make sure that these guys get touches in the game. You got to make sure that within your scheme, within the framework of the structure of your offensive system, that those guys are going to get involved early. It helps Gardner Minshew, right? It helps everybody. But, that's important. And Luke Getsy, I think the one thing that was really apparent to me after week one, a lot of play callers that change teams will go back and look at their body of work and say, you know what, I could have been better. I could have done a better job in this situation. I've got to do a better job next week, making sure that I get my playmakers involved early. Eric, as one of the best defensive backs to play the game, if you shut a receiver down in the first half, now all of a sudden he's not sure. Now all of a sudden he's not in rhythm. Now all of a sudden he's complaining on the sidelines to the quarterback. He's going to the coordinator. You got him. And it's hard once they get off to a slow start to crank them up in the second half. And I think that's one thing you got to be smart with a guy like Davante Adams. I want this guy to get off to a good start. I want him to get comfortable and be confident and really make an impact on the game.
Rich, last one, and I would take the over on JT asking you this question all year long. Can we play with speed and get out of the huddle? Can we run plays that aren't 40 seconds with the clock is counting down 3, 2, and 1? Can they sprint Gardner outside the pocket and make it easier for him? I don't think you want to watch the Charger defense rest. Let them set their defense. Can this team play faster with all of these weapons so they can catch the other team, the other defense at times, maybe asleep or not with the proper personnel?
Absolutely. And I would say this, JT, the one thing that was really apparent yesterday, I watched just about every game. I mean, I'm so just overwhelmed right now with all the film and game tape and everything and watching these games. The one thing that was really apparent to me yesterday was when you think about players, you got to also evaluate the coaches. And the preseason is, a different rhythm. You get into the regular season, and everything speeds up, right? Substitutions, you got young players playing for the first time. You got guys in the huddle whose eyes are crazy, their heartbeat's going crazy because they're playing for the first time. And so it even affects the play callers. And I think Luke Getsy in the preseason did a good job of play entry and personnel. But I think yesterday it took a little while. I think Gardner can help that process. It has to get better. We want more time at the line of scrimmage. Ideally, I'd like to have Gardner Minshew have 12, 13 seconds, maybe 15 seconds at the line of scrimmage to preview the front, preview the coverage, make the changes that are necessary. You can't waste plays in the NFL. I thought there were some opportunities yesterday to take advantage of some fronts and coverages, and the Raiders never got to it.
Appreciate you, Rich. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for joining us.
All right, Rich.
That's the best.
Coming up next, we'll hear from Raider players coming off the loss in L.A. when we continue on Raiders Roundtable. Raiders Roundtable is brought to you by America First Credit Union, the official credit union of the Las Vegas Raiders.
I know it's only one game, but what do you make of just the pace of the play compared to the pros and college?
Yeah, it's obviously a little faster. Everyone's a little bigger, a little faster, a little stronger. So, it definitely picks up a little bit.
Did you have any sort of part of the game where you felt like it was a welcome to the NFL moment, or you thought you stayed pretty composed and even killed the whole game?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at staying even killed and stuff. And, I just felt like I was just cruising the whole game. Felt good to be back out there.
All right, that's Brock Bowers. I can't wait to see his career develop.
Right.
He is a superstar in this league, and I thought he got off to a good start. He was very composed.
I thought him and Devontae really had the most targets, obviously, and I think those two guys are really going to be the bell cows of this offense after we get it going. They get comfortable with Gardner Minshew. I think he's going to be a heck of a football player, can line him up all over the football field, as you saw yesterday. Didn't have a lot of preseason work, so this is really his first time, in that kind of environment. And for a young guy, I thought he played really well.
Another guy who played pretty well, Alexander Madison, who comes in here. Let's hear what he had to say.
I guess that means you probably see some things that you can build off of, even though it wasn't the best overall effort. Things
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I believe, if we execute on a handful of different levels, the game is completely different. So we just have to make sure we go back, look at the tape, give credit to them. But I just know if we go out there and execute those couple of different plays, a couple turnovers here and there, great plays by them, but we can be better, and we will be better.
That's how frustrating that is, walking away with a loss week 1.
I mean, it's extremely frustrating, but it's a long season, extremely long season. So a lot of football ahead of us. We just have to get back to the drawing board, get back to our fundamentals, and play some Raider football going forward. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of football in front of us, so we can't hang our heads on this.
It'll be interesting to see what happened in that game, how he got his touches. Was it because Zamir struggled on 3rd and 4th and short, where they said, let's try to mix it up, or do you think that was part of the game plan to get him in?
Yeah, JT, I thought he had some juice, right? First of all, even when he ran the football, I thought there was some juice there. Obviously, the catch for a touchdown, that explosive play, was something he's done in the past, and he's able to get done. But I really love the fact that he's a mature running back, kind of understands the situations. But I really love the fact that he was able to get in early, and I love the way he was able to finish forward. Love the juice. Most importantly, the vibe. He's played some football before, so he's someone that I think the Raiders can really lean on and trust if Zeus is not going earlier. Maybe see some touches a little earlier in the game, get him a little package, right? So he can give us an opportunity to have some of those explosive plays. But I really love the fact that he came to the building and he was really ready to play, blocked well in the passing game, and then caught the one for a touchdown, which is really important for our football team.
Let's hear what the great Mad Max Crosby had to say after the game.
Would you say it was, based on what you saw, were they making adjustments? Were there lapses? Were you guys getting worn down? What would you say then?
No, it's details, you know what I mean? That's football, it's a game of inches and a game of details, and we weren't detailed enough for 4 quarters. We did some good things, but there's a couple runs where, it's on us. At the end of the day, it's about block destruction, getting off blocks and finishing plays, and, we just let things get a little leaky at the end. That's not what we're about, so we got to fix it, and, fix it moving forward.
When you look at what happened statistically, a 61 and a 46-yard run by Dobbins, Max is not involved in plays like that typically. Max understands. Don't congratulate this defense for playing okay because they gave up some big runs. You can tell he's pretty bitter about it.
Yeah, and he should be because we have to lean on our defense, particularly early this season. We thought we would have a type of defense that could stop the run, so we have an opportunity to get after the passer. We all understand that this football team defensively is based on getting after the quarterback, but you can't get after the quarterback if you don't stop the run. So we have to be sound in our defensive fits, and we just weren't sound. We don't have to be perfect, but if a guy is in the A gap, someone's going to have to compensate. Usually that's Spillane. Spillane does an outstanding job. He was in the correct gap, but you have to play with heavy hands. And what that means is when you kind of get after those linemen, you got to hit them, and they got to feel it. So you got to push the line of scrimmage back. Penetration is really the key. And as you see there, a tale of two halves, JT. 26 yards rushing in the first half, 150 in the second half. That says a lot about consistency, being on top of your game from the first to the fourth quarter, playing a full 60 minutes. All those things that us coaches, and players, you hear over and over again. But it is true. JT, and if you look at those opportunities there, 2.8 in the first half, 8.8 in the second half, just not good enough.
What that tells me is about Jim Harbaugh. Okay, so we're going to see Jim Harbaugh. It might be for a decade. It might be longer. We don't know. But Jim Harbaugh wanted to do that.
Yes.
That was his goal. He wanted to win the game, and he wanted to set up the stats to tell his team heading into week 2, look at how we ran the ball in the second half, look at our power, look at our strength and our cardio, and look what we did to close out that game. You got to tip your cap to him. They were able to do that.
That's a great point, JT. And when you come to the locker room and all offseason you've been talking about, playing physical, winning the line of scrimmage, and your opposing team, being the Raiders, saying the same things, and you come into halftime, you say, hey, they won the first half. They were more physical than we were. We kind of make some adjustments a little bit here in the second half, and then you win the game and you show those stats. That's what it's about, really. It's all about being able to prove that you're a physical football team, that you can win a line of scrimmage. So we have to go back to the drawing board and make sure those things don't happen to us in the second half. And right now, the Chargers are flying pretty high with that style of football that Jim Harbaugh is going to play. He's been playing that style since the University of San Diego.
Yeah.
And everywhere he goes, that's the style of football he plays. We have to find a way to get into our style so we can have those positive opportunities and win football games at the end of the game.
Let's take a look ahead at the opponent, the Ravens. The Ravens are going to come off 9 days as they lost in Kansas City to kick off the season here. This is going to come down to stopping Lamar Jackson outside the pocket. When you look at the numbers that Dobbins put up on those long runs, you don't want to see that with Lamar, who's going to tuck and run if the receivers aren't open downfield.
JT, he may be the best of all time as far as a running quarterback and a mobile guy. Of course, he can throw the rock also, but he's known for being able to make those amazing football plays from around the pocket. So tackling this week at the second and third level are going to be key. We have to find a way to put the pads on him. Don't allow him to run out of bounds when he is running the football. I think that's the one thing that you talk about when you talk about quarterbacks is you have to find a way to keep him in bounds, keep him from sliding. You want to pound him early in the football game so later on in those third and fourth quarters, he's thinking about those hits. He's thinking about Spillane and Diablo and Max Crosby taking shots at him. So we have to find a way to not allow him to be able to make those incredible plays outside the pocket. Consistency. We know we're not going to stop him totally. This is Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP of the National Football League. So we have to find a way, though, to put those pads on him, JT. He has to fill this game in the third and fourth quarter and just have a question in his head on if he's going to run and how far he's going to run later in the football game.
Here's what I'm encouraged about in this game. Are the Raiders going to come into it saying the only way we can win is we got to throw the ball? We got to go 4 wide. We got to get Devontae in the game. Bowers has got to get 10 receptions, 12 targets, and just go to the strength of this team. Don't wait for the game to develop. Come out and punch the Ravens in the mouth and say, we're here to play. We're going to play physical, of course, but we're going to be an aerial team. We're going to throw it. We want to get into a game where Minshew can throw the ball to all these weapons. I think if you want to slow the game down against Lamar Jackson, he's proven over the years that he can take the game over very quickly.
Yeah, it's all about ball possession here. It's all about time possession for us. In any way we can keep the ball, and I'm right with you as far as spreading it out a little bit. Maybe that's the answer there because now you're dealing with a box that is not so thick with players. You can spread guys out. We have the personnel to do that, right? We have 2 tremendous receivers with some speed with Turner, and then we have those 2 tight ends. We can get into packages where we can spread this football team out and kind of dink and dunk early, have some packages, of course, for Devontae and Brock Bowers, but it's all about time of possession in this game. At the end of the game, we have to win that battle. So now we're putting the Baltimore Ravens in situations where they feel they have to score, and we can kind of dictate there. And at the end of football games, be up double digits. So now we can get Max Crosby and all those guys rushing the quarterback.
We can tell you this much, the building is energized. That was a tough loss. The Raiders will be ready to go on a long road trip to Baltimore to take on one of the best teams in all of football. The Raiders will be ready to go. For Eric Allen, I'm JT. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll be here all year long. Raiders Roundtable brought to you by America First Credit Union.